Welcome, everybody, to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. We got a great one for you today. So, look, you guys have been asking for debates. We're going to deliver. We did Emily last week on the culture war. This week, we will be debating a libertarian presidential candidate. Mike Dermott is his name.
Yes,
Dermott.
Termont. And yes, in honor of his libertarian ideology, the free market asked us for more debates. So we're just finding where the supply and the demand curve of the desire for more debates meets. We are trying to reach you there, and that's why we are having Mike on today.
Indeed. So, look, you're not going to want to miss this. For people who are just watching this video on YouTube, the teaser clip, do yourself a favor. Link is in the video description box below. Go to Substack. If you pay $5 a month, you get the video of every interview and every debate, and you get it a day early, usually on Fridays. Everybody else can sign up on Substack for free and get all the interviews and debates a day later. Usually that's on Saturday. But remember, guys, we don't take any corporate money, any advertiser money. We've never had a conversation with an advertiser for this show, so it's all funded through the $5 donations per month at a time. So please consider supporting. And like I said, you're not going to want to miss this. It's going to be fun. We're having fun with these debates now, and it should be contentious and interesting, and it'll be substantive as well, but you're not going to want to miss it. Okay.
Yeah.
So having said that, there's a study that you covered on Breaking Points.
Actually, technically Counterpoint.
It was on Counterpoint.
So Ryan and Sagar, both of the men, are out of town this week. So Emily's been filling in for Sagar. I've been filling in for Ryan. So we had this conversation, Emily and I, on Counterpoints about this study that I wanted to get your take on, Kyle, about how...
Spicy topic. Let's just say that up front. Spicy topic. It's about men and women, sensitivity,
crying, all kinds of things. All right. Modern men just as likely as women to show their sensitive side, survey reveals. Apparently,
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
First of all, do you buy that? Just the top line. Are men just as likely as women to show their sensitive side?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. Because maybe if you were just talking about young men, maybe it'd be closer.
When you include middle age,
this
older.
is not just confined to young men. This is all generations.
Gotcha. All right, keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to know that.
That's all right. So here's what they say. It turns out boys really do cry. Modern men are now just as likely as women to openly display a sensitive side. The poll of 2,000 adults finds 71% of men confess to being in touch with how they feel, compared to 82% of women. Across all respondents who consider themselves to be sensitive, 41% outwardly show this side of their personality often or always. A third think being in tune with how they feel is the sign of a good leader. And this was interesting to me as well. 37% of men consider being called sensitive a compliment. Only 23% of women feel the same way. So women are more likely to feel like if you're saying they're sensitive, that's an insult. Men are more likely to say, okay, this is a compliment.
Could I jump in now? Okay, so, and how is it? There's more too, right?
Yeah, so
Okay,
there were numbers about, go ahead.
Before you get to that stuff, I just wanted to break this down a little bit. So on the sensitive thing, it is gendered, and I think people are interpreting that correctly. If a man is called sensitive, it's usually meant like, he's sensitive. He's so sensitive.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's a good thing.
Nice, yeah.
But if a woman's called sensitive, it's like, she's really sensitive.
Yeah, it's like
it's a negative
touchy,
thing.
unhinged,
you know what I mean?
Overly emotional, whatever.
So they interpreted
it
in a gendered way, but I think they were correct to interpret it in that gendered way.
Yes.
It is a compliment in one instance, and it is a put down in another
more
instance.
More of a pejorative when it's applied to women.
Now, the 71% of men are in touch with how they feel. That I don't like. That's so vague, I don't even know what it means, right? Like, if you tell me, am I in touch with how I feel? It's like, yeah, I know how I feel. I feel, whether I feel good, bad, mediocre, happy, anything. Like, yeah, I know how I feel. So I'm surprised not 100% of people know how they feel, right? That's just a weird way of putting it. And 82% of women say the same. Again, not surprising. It should be like 100% of people. I don't really know why they phrased it this way.
Right.
Then they say 41% show sensitivity often or always. Again, I don't know what that means. So, like, if I'm in touch with my feelings, but I'm not like being sensitive, that's still me showing what I'm feeling, right? So I'm showing like my sensitivity. Like, you could be not sensitive, but even if you get sensitive, you wear it on your sleeve anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So even that's weird. 41% show I guess what they mean is 41% are just like, I don't feel great today. Like,
or
I don't know about this.
Or like displaying a level of vulnerability, I guess, about like, it's the opposite of that, just like, stoicism. That was the sort of classic male trait. It's like, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to,
We're going to get back to that. Keep going.
All right. So this is the part that's really controversial, I think. So they linked to another survey that found that, and this is self-reported, that men cry on average, about 4 times a month. Women, on the other hand, self-report crying about 3 times a month. So 4 times a month for men, 3 times a month for women. That works out for those math geniuses out there to 48 times a year that men are crying and 36 for women. Your thoughts?
I don't buy it.
You don't think that's right?
I think this goes back to the whole gendered thing we were just talking about
Yeah.
before. Men, like, they're probably over-reporting how much they cry because it might even be viewed as a positive thing, a man crying these days, or they think society would interpret it as like, oh, he's so sweet. He's so
Sensitive, yeah.
He's so touched his feelings. He cries. So I think they're over-reporting it.
And do you think women are underreporting it or accurately reporting it? Because if women are more likely to see being sensitive as an insult, perhaps women are underreporting.
Yeah,
they're
either,
like, I don't want to be viewed as some like unhinged, emotional, crazy person.
They're either underreporting or just telling the truth.
Yeah.
I think it's one or the other. Yeah, but now let's, for argument's sake here, let's say the numbers are real, which I definitely doubt on the men's side. That's pathetic. No, for real. For real. So look, I'm not anti-crying. You know, I cried when my dad died. Of course I cried. Given his eulogy, I cried. At our wedding, I was crying the entire freaking ceremony. It was kind of sad. Like, it's hard to find a picture of me not being like...
People loved that, though.
I understand that people loved it, but I'm illustrating the point. I'm not anti-crying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if the situation is right and it's the organic thing, right? But if you're crying 4 times a month, bruh, I don't want to be an asshole, but like, go talk to a therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, take some SSRIs or some anti-anxiety medication. Like that's a lot of crying, man. That's a lot of 4 times a month. That's every week. You're crying every week.
Well, one of the things that I said with Emily is like, I wonder how are people interpreting crying? Because there's a big difference between like full on crying and like welling up a little bit at something that's sweet, you know,
their definition is probably at least 1 tear going down your face, right? That's what I would imagine.
That's
definition.
what you think?
You have to, in order to cry, the waterworks have to go.
At least 1 tear that rolls down the cheek.
Yes, and even if
exits the eye area.
And even if all 4 of them are just that 1 tier type deal, you got to get your shit together.
The other thing is, you're like, they're like clearly unhinged. Like, you didn't say unhinged, but they clearly need to like talk to a therapist or get on SSRIs or something. But I'm thinking of myself. I consider myself to be a somewhat sensitive and emotional person. And especially, I feel like since I've had kids, it's like any commercial that has a little kid in it or whatever, I'm just like, oh, I'm a sucker for it. Probably the overwhelming majority of times that I cry, it's not about anything sad. It's about being like emotional about like, you know, at Ida's graduation.
See, that's interesting because my interpretation was that the men, it would be about not
sadness.
Like that.
But it doesn't specify.
It doesn't specify that. So maybe it is like they're watching a movie or something.
Yeah. So to me, if you're taking all instances of crying as just like an emotional, reaction, then dudes are crying 4 times a month. What's the problem? Like if they're able to allow themselves to have those feelings and like really be moved by whatever is going on around them, whether it's a TV show or like some milestone for their kid or whatever it is, how's that a bad thing? You know, why should they stuff that down and not show their genuine reaction to whatever's going on around them?
Okay. So here's my answer. And this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but nonetheless, this is how I feel. Okay. I'm a believer in, of course, honesty is super important. You always have to be honest, especially in a relationship. Always have to be honest. But I'm also a believer in stoicism. I am. I think you need to be able to view yourself objectively enough to know when your ass is being fucking ridiculous.
But how is it ridiculous to tear up at like kindergarten graduation?
No, it's not. That's again, this all comes back to I'm not interpreting it as that. I'm interpreting it to like, Bob got the promotion and I didn't. That's how I'm thinking of the men doing it. If what you're describing is true, I'll grant you it's less ridiculous. Because it's just, if it's like a touching moment that was meant to be a touching moment in a movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You want to tear up. I'm not hating on you. Right?
Okay. All right.
But again, when you're at 4 times a month, and if a lot of these moments are not stuff like that, it just seems to me like you're a little unbalanced and you need to be able to look at yourself more objectively and kick your own self into your ass from time to time and be like, get your shit together, bro. Like, come on. Get it together. Like, basically, I don't want to say man up, but I want to say like stiff upper lip.
So you're interpreting crying as just being, I just want to correctly interpret your position here. Your view of the crying is almost like, when you're feeling bad for yourself. You're
Yes,
sad about something that happened to you and
now,
you're
I could
down
be
and you're
wrong.
crying.
Maybe you're right that it's like, in a movie
I
or
mean, it
whatever.
doesn't specify.
I think
It just
the
says
movie thing
crying.
would be less sad, and the crying over your life situation, your thing at work, your relationship, whatever. That's a little more pathetic.
Yeah.
You know?
But then, I mean, you have to grant that there are certain circumstances in which that would be an emotionally healthy response, even if it was the type of crying that was about, like, your dad died and you were really feeling that loss, or your child died, or like something horrific happens to you. It's a healthy emotional response to feel sad and cry.
Yeah, certainly there are contexts where it's the proper response. It's the right thing. It's the right thing, But if you're, again, 4 times a month, it's like, are we really at that benchmark of this is appropriate? Or are you just sort of sulking? Is there like self-loathing? Like what's going on here?
So you think would you think it was appropriate, and you wouldn't have like questions about or tell this dude to like man up, as you put it, if these expressions of emotion in the form of tears were more about like happiness, joy, seeing something sweet, like yesterday, Yegor sent me this image of a woman who adopted a cat that was 20 years old because she didn't want him to spend his last days in a shelter, like something like that, which could easily, in the right context, make me tear up. Like that, you feel like that would be fine, or you feel like keep that shit together too?
No, that's certainly more fine. Look, I'll say it like this. I'm gonna grant you 1 cry a month. Once you start getting over that line.
Definition.
What do you mean?
What's your definition of crying, though, in the context you're using it?
Oh, at least 1 tear.
No, but
so the welling
over
up or fighting it off is fine. That's no big deal.
So 1 tear of sadness or 1 tear of anything? Why do I get to only have one like experience of joy and emotion in a month that leads me to tears?
Well, I'm talking about the dudes here.
I know, but I'm playing the part.
But why do they?
Why should they be held to a different standard than women too?
Because there's a value in, I think in the long run, it pays dividends psychologically to sort of get over your own bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that in the long run is a positive thing for you mentally and will make you happier. And it's almost like think of it like this. This is how I'm thinking about it, right? Like imagine a soccer team or a hockey team or whatever, basketball team, and they have a really good coach that like really can guide them through life, really knows what to say and when to say it and how to get through to them and how to get the best out of these players, right? You need to be that for yourself because nobody else is going to do it. So I don't want people to get dragged down and submerged in their own negative emotions. And at a certain point in time, I feel like with a lot of people nowadays, it's like they actually think that it is a liberation type thing to wallow in negative stuff.
Yeah.
And I just don't agree with that. I think you're going to be happier if you don't do that. If you actively fight these things off and pep talk yourself and say, nah, I'm going to get my shit together and I'm going to override this. I'm going to overcome it, whatever it is. But again, the whole conversation here is assuming that they're crying for, know, a negative
reason.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. In fairness, like I kind of argued the opposite side of this when I was talking to Emily, and I'm just, making the debate interesting here because some of what you say I do agree with. But, I mean, I think to you crying at our wedding, which you sort of hated. You didn't really like showing that level of
embarrassing
emotion.
Like if I did it for 3 minutes, cool. But the whole time I was like, it's like.
But you were the only one who felt that way.
Yeah, but there's a reason I feel it.
And not only that, societal constructs and expectations and toxic masculinity. That's why.
I think reasonable frameworks is how I describe that. But go ahead.
Here's the thing, like it was such a beautiful expression of your love, not just for me, but for our kids, for like all of these people that have come together. And by you allowing yourself to let that emotion out and making yourself vulnerable in that way, it was quite the opposite of like, you need to get your shit together. It was like, actually, it's actually takes some courage to show this level of emotion and vulnerability in front of this large group of people. And you kind of let people in with that. And that was part of what made everybody at the ceremony have a deeper experience of what was going on.
I
So
totally
it's
agree.
not
That's a moot point. We totally agree
but
on
it's
that.
not just that it was fine that you did it. It was actually like, I would say, a sort of model of, I don't want to say masculinity, but just it was a actually actively good, positive, beautiful moment.
But let's not pretend like every cry is like that. Because a lot of times, a lot of people cry over some dumb shit. Right?
Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on. You know that's true.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course. And
Yeah.
so all I'm saying is, if you're crying for negative reasons, for sad reasons, like, don't wallow in your own sadness. And actually, the whole thing of, just men versus women, no, I actually mean it for both.
I was going to ask
I
you
actually
that.
mean it for both.
So
Like,
do you
come
think
on.
that men should be more stoic than women then? Like, do you think there should be ideally a
come to
difference
think,
in
no,
gender?
I would kind of recommend a certain degree of stoicism to everybody, And look, it's the same in a relationship, not to let people too much into our business here, but if I do something you don't like, or you do something I don't like,
Never happens.
never happens. But there's already a default level of trust
Yeah.
where I know you didn't do it on purpose. So if I want to in the moment be like, why'd you do this? Stop, don't do this. It's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. She didn't mean it. It's not a big deal. Let's move the fuck on here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like that is healthier, because a lot of people nowadays would say in a relationship, every single second, every little instinct you have, share with your partner and make sure they know everything you're feeling and you know everything they're feeling. And it's like, nah, sometimes some shit is like, I'm going to go ahead and get the fuck over this because I know I'm being ridiculous, or vice versa, right?
Right. Well, and sometimes those things that feel very big in the moment are colored by, like, I'm really hungry. I'm really tired. I'm really irritated with the kids or whatever.
People don't realize
and
that.
It can be hard in the moment to separate, like, what is a justified grievance that I'm feeling right now and what is just at another moment, if I was better fed and better rested, I would just have no issue with it. But I do think that there's a fine line between what you're describing, which is like, you don't have to tell them every single fucking thing that irritates you. Like, and that's just not, you take in good faith that your partner's like acting in a reasonable way. There's a fine line between that and just like suppressing actual, real conflicts of values or tensions or issues that are going to surface again and again that do actually need to be at some point dealt with. And you can push them off long enough that they kind of accumulate and it becomes a bigger problem than it would have been if it was dealt with at the start.
But then you shouldn't be with that person anyway. If you're going to have like conflicts over base level stuff, like just values, it's like, then what are you even doing? What are you even doing? Right?
Yeah, but I mean, listen, there's always going to be little give and take living together with another human being, no matter who they are, no matter how much you love them. And so I do think that there is a balance between what you're saying, like, let some time pass, see how you feel the next day or whatever, and just never addressing, these little annoyances that can add up to more if you don't deal with them.
My theory is, look, those little annoyances, at least for me, 95% of the time, that's a problem with me. It's not a problem with you. It's not a problem with somebody else who I might be annoyed by. It's like, for whatever reason, you said, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm annoyed, I didn't sleep well last night, I'm trying to do something else, and this shit is getting in the way. 95% of the time, it's like, the person's not actually doing anything wrong. It's you in your own mind being a little prima donna bitch and being like, God, this is annoying me. But it's like, you know what? Take a couple steps away, relax. That you won't even remember this in 7 minutes. Like, just get over it. And I feel like a lot more things fall into that category than people like to admit.
Yeah,
because people are like, oh, my feelings are everything. And whatever I'm feeling right now, I'm going to feel forever. And it's like, no, you're not. Shut the fuck up. Stiff upper lip. Move on. And that's the end of it,
I agree.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.